My name is Brian Swan, and I'm a PHP developer advocate at Microsoft. Last week, the latest version of the PHP Manager for IIS was released, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to give you a quick tour of what it can do. The PHP Manager for IIS is a plugin for the IIS Manager that allows you to manage PHP installations and run multiple versions of PHP on the same IIS server. You can download it at PHPManager.wmv. Just go to the Downloads tab and download the version that's appropriate for your machine, either the 32-bit or the 64-bit version. It's a very quick download. It shouldn't take long at all to download and install it, but to save us a little bit of time, I've done that ahead of time. After you've done that, if you start the IIS Manager and then navigate to a website that you have set up, I just have the default website set up, you should see an icon for the PHP Manager. So let me start the PHP Manager by double-clicking on that, and I'll get a message that says PHP is not enabled on this server. So to enable it, we have to register a PHP version, which is fairly easy to do. We just navigate to a CGI executable. So here, I'm going to navigate to where I know I have my PHP installation set up. So in my programs file, PHP, and you can see I have several versions set up here. So just as an example, I'll use 5.2, point at that CGI executable, open, and click OK. And now we have PHP 5214 set up on this site, and we can see the path to the executable, and I can actually verify that it's running by calling PHP info here within IIS Manager. And we can see I have PHP 5214 set up. If I click back to the main page, it's very much the same process to register a new PHP version. So let's say I want to register one of those other versions. So if I go back to my programs file and PHP, and let's say I want to register the latest version of PHP, which is 5.3.4. I can double click on that executable, click OK, and now the same site is running PHP 5.3.4. So if I have an application on that website and I want to test it against one version, it now makes it very easy to switch versions and run tests against a different version of PHP. Let me go back to, and so from change PHP version here, I can see that it's running 5.3.4. If I now want to run 5.2.14, I simply set this up, and now I'm running against 5.2.14. One of the things the PHP Manager is doing when it registers a new PHP version is updating the PHP INI file so that PHP will run optimally on IIS. If you want to see exactly what those settings are, you can come down to the PHP settings section here and click on Manage All Settings and look at all of the settings that have been set that correspond to settings in your PHP INI file. We can make changes to these here as well, and just for demonstration purposes, I will make a silly change here. Not something I would ever do on a real machine, but I'm going to remove this date.timezone setting. Say yes, and go back to the main page. And note that the PHP Manager is giving me a warning here that says my PHP configuration is not optimal. And for anything that it views as non-optimal, it will provide recommendations and allow you to change those pretty easily. So I'm just going to change this back now to the recommended value of America, Los Angeles. Click OK, and now I'm back to an optimal configuration. You can have a little bit different slice of your settings. If you want to look at error reporting, I can come over here and say, oh, let's make this a development machine as opposed to a production machine. And I can apply that, go back to the main page, and I might want to see exactly what changes were made as a development machine. I can go back to Manage All Settings and see that display errors is on, error reporting was set to E-all and E-strict, and log errors is set to on. And just for purposes of demonstration, let's edit this one and say, oh, well, I just want E-all on. I don't want E-strict on. And then we can go back to my main page. I can also take a look at my runtime limits settings and make any changes to those here, although I'm pretty happy with these here. So let's just go back to the main page. And if you don't like using that interface for managing your settings, you have direct access to the PHP INI file, and you can make changes here and save them and have them take effect immediately. One of the things that the PHP Manager is doing under the covers is recycling the PHP process every time a change is saved to the PHP INI file, so that those changes take effect immediately. There's no need to manually restart your web server. The last thing I'll take a look at here in the PHP settings section is your errors log. Just an easy way to have access to your errors log. I don't have any entries here because I just registered this version and I haven't run any scripts against this that would generate any errors or warnings. To demonstrate how you can add PHP extensions and pretty easily enable or disable them, I'm going to use the PHP 5.3 version that I have configured. So you can see down here at the PHP extension section I have 11 extensions enabled and a total of 37 installed. And by clicking enable or disable an extension, I'm taken to a UI that makes it very easy to enable or disable an extension. So let's take a look at the WinCache extension here. I can right click and select disable, and that extension is now disabled. As I mentioned before, the PHP Manager is making changes to my PHP INI file and recycling the PHP process so that those changes are live. And it's just as easy to enable that extension as well. So it's now enabled again. If I go back to the main page and look at this add an extension link, this allows me to add extensions from some other directory other than my PHP installations extension directory. So from here I'm going to navigate to a folder that has a few more extensions in it. So in this extensions folder, I have a few extensions. One of them is the PHP SQL Serve DLL. This is the procedural SQL Server driver for PHP. So I'm just going to select that and click Open, select OK, and that has now been added to my PHP configuration, and it is enabled by default. I should point out that what the PHP Manager is doing is copying that extension file from one directory to the extension directory for this PHP installation. The last thing I'd like to show here about the PHP Manager is that you can use it to run different PHP versions for different websites or even different directories for a given website. So if I look at the directories I have for this website, suppose I look at this test directory, I can click on the PHP Manager for this particular directory and say, I'd like actually to run PHP 5.2 for this directory. And now any scripts that are in this directory will be running under PHP 5.2. If I come back to my default website and look at the PHP Manager, it's still running PHP 5.3.4. So again, it makes it very easy to run different versions of PHP on the same server. I can do that on a per site basis as well. If I want to create a new website here, then it's also very easy to enable any version of PHP that I have registered. So that's it for a quick tour of the PHP Manager. I hope this was interesting and useful. Thanks.